Hi guys, and welcome to Vegan Booty Talks. I have a guest with me here today, a pro bodybuilder since 2022. For many years, he struggled to diet eating meat, fish, and eggs. Since he turned vegan in 2009, he managed to make a significant improvements to physique and just better life and health. Welcome to the show, Egmont Bonomi. Hi, how are you
Yes.
today?
Hi. Hi there. I'm good, thank you.
So before we
So,
get started to talking about all the things of plant-based bodybuilding, I just wanted to tell a little more about yourself. So can you tell us where you're from and what do you do for living?
okay. So, I'm originally from Brazil. I grew up in the US, in Hawaii, and spent 10 years there, more or less. And when I turned 16, I moved to Europe. I went to school in Europe and then later China. And I was living in China up until the pandemic started. And then I left because that was not the place to be during the pandemic. And now I'm living in Europe. So yeah, that's basically my background. I'm in finance, and yeah, I traveled. I've lived in a lot of different countries, but one thing I've done all these years, wherever I live, was working out. Ever since I turned 18, I started working out in the gym. Before that, I was into sailing, mountain biking. I was never like a team sport kind of guy. I was always about, like independent, being independent. And also because my schedule as a kid was really busy. I was studying a lot, and my parents had us do like so many different courses at home after school. So we didn't really have time for team sports. So yeah, that's why I never got into that. But eventually, I kind of knew since I was a kid that I wanted to have like a muscular physique. That was something that kind of fascinated me. But I
Mhm.
didn't really learn much about it until I started in 2002, which is, believe it or not, 21 years ago. Crazy. Time flies. But yeah, I started working out in the gym in Europe in 2002, and I was like dedicated since day one. I didn't miss a day for the first year. I remember like in Europe training, and I was obviously a beginner, and back then there was no Instagram or whatever else, YouTube. So it was magazines and your personal trainer or whoever made your like workout schedule for you. So and I had to make a lot of mistakes and then learn about myself in terms of what my body responds to, what kind of training works best for me. That took a long time. And unfortunately, I only discovered veganism in 2019. I knew about it before, but I shared a lot of the misconceptions people have about, amino acids and meat and all those things. And when I tried veganism, it kind of changed this whole trajectory I had with bodybuilding. It
Mhm.
allowed me to accomplish things I never thought were possible. And nothing. I mean, I've only competed once in an amateur show in Hawaii. Uh, I,
Seriously, I
I
didn't know. I thought you compete a
yeah,
lot. Oh
no,
wow.
I didn't. I didn't. I only did one show. I was gonna do a show in 2012, but then it was like in the US, I think in California, and I was living in China at the time, and it didn't work out the schedule. It
Hmm.
almost came to be, but anyway. Yeah, and then I was stuck in Hawaii during the pandemic, and all I did was train, train, train. And then at the
I
end, right
have to
before,
interrupt you and just tell to people go to your Instagram and watch what workout gym kind of setup at home you made
yeah,
in Hawaii because that's how I found you. That's guy is significant. So like he built a whole freaking gym and backyard from the wood and
yeah,
I guess as I understanding you did it by yourself, right? A
yes,
whole
yeah.
everything.
We went to the lumber store. We bought some wood. It started small. It was going to be just like a squat rack and a bench, and then we had so much time on our hands during the lockdowns that we ended up building like a lot of things. It was pretty crazy. And then I invited a few friends and friends over, and we were training every day during the
Yeah.
lockdowns. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
was amazing. Yeah.
Now, what did you do with that gym you when you
It's
left?
still there at home in Hawaii. It's put aside. It's actually really cool because it's like an outdoor gym. made out of wood, so it doesn't rust or anything like that. And it just stays out in the garage area. And whenever I need it, I just move it out and then I use it. But I
That's
haven't seen that since I moved here. That was what, 2 years ago. So I mean,
wow.
obviously, it's not going to be as good as like a proper gym, but I mean, just look at the results I got before from before I started training there to like when I competed in Hawaii. That was primarily that gym. Only the last like 2 months I was training more regularly at a normal gym.
And
So it worked.
how was that show?
It was good. I won. I won. I didn't win the overall in classic. There was a guy that was a lot bigger than me. I did it natural, so that's my excuse, I guess. But yeah, I knew it was going to be a stepping stone, and I could see that I was putting on size that year that I was there training, being vegan, and I just kept going, and I put on 10 pounds of muscle since I left Hawaii. So since I competed, so yeah, I'm really happy with, and I'm still natural. I don't want to really go into using anabolic steroids or anything like that. I
That's
don't
so
think that's the
cool.
way to go. If I can do it naturally, I want to do it naturally because then you get to keep the gains and it's a lot less variation in your performance in terms of your look and also your the weights you can move. When you're natural, it's like that every day you go to the gym, you're just going to be a little bit better. It's very small, but you're 100% sure that you're going to get better. Whereas if you're taking anabolic steroids, you're going to get better when you're on it, and then when you're off it, no matter what you do, you're going to go down a little bit until the next time you're on it. And that's for me, that mentally, that's like it's hard to cope. It's you always want to be improving, and to feel dependent on substances that are essentially put in your body. They have side effects. You can manage those, but it's not worth it. I think if you can do it naturally, it's just so much better. And the look is different. It's very different, the look you get from training naturally compared to being on anabolic steroids.
Can you extend on that? What do you feel like different?
The
Like,
look is obviously if I were to jump on now, I'd perform much better. I'd be more full all the time, more vascular and things like that. But um, the problem is eventually you have to stop unless you're going to be on it, for the rest of your life, or just go low dose, high dose, low dose, high dose. So, and then there's side effects. And the longer you stay on, the heavier the dosage, the stronger the side effects. So if you can do it naturally, the gains are much slower, and the dieting takes a lot more time, and you have to be really strict. But it's basically you have it. It's like it's in the bank, basically. Whereas
mhm.
when if you're taking anabolics, it's not in the bank. It's like it's on loan to you, and when you stop or you reduce the quantity of steroids you take, you're gonna lose some. So
That's so
that's
great example.
it's
Oh my
hard to
God,
if you
love it.
compete if you all you want to do is compete, then I guess that's the trade-off you make. But since I can compete, but honestly I don't really care if I compete. It's not that important to me. For me, bodybuilding is more like a lifestyle, and I want to be kind of that person all the time. I don't want to be that person for that one day when I peak at the show. That's great, but I care about, for me, it's a lifestyle. It's bodybuilding is one of those few things. I guess it's in many sports, it's the same, especially at high levels. They peak like Olympic athletes, they peak for the Olympics and then they go down a little bit. But since, I'm not a professional athlete, I'd much rather have a very high level all the time than having a higher level just a little bit and then falling back down, because that's very detrimental. It's hard to deal with psychologically when you have these ups and downs, because you knew what you look like, when you were peaking, and then you're like, oh damn, I'm not like that now, and then you it's hard to keep the motivation to keep training hard and dieting, especially the dieting part. Training's fun, I enjoy that, so I'd keep doing that. But dieting really hard, it'd be hard if you knew that you'd never be able to get that level without this extra ingredient. Whereas if you're natural, if you keep the diet, you're just going to keep improving. It's very slow, but you keep improving. And then I'm a testament that if you do it long enough and hard enough, you can look amazing all year. And that's what I
Yeah.
like. It's
Yeah, I agree with you. That's such a great example you just mentioned. Like when you do bodybuilding naturally, is like you are having a saving account, and then when you do it in any type of performance enhancement drugs, is like having a loan, and then you need to pay it off. It's just such a cool example
Yeah,
for someone out there, because I think it's right. And a lot of the time, people look for quick solutions, right, and quick results, just like taking a loan. You need the quick money. Okay, you can borrow it, but you ended up paying it
yeah,
off. And if you
yeah. And
don't
not
pay it
only
off,
that, it's worse than that actually, because if you were to talk about a loan, you could technically use a loan and do something with it and create even more value with the loan. And
mm-hmm,
then even if you have to pay it back, overall you're still better off because you made something, that didn't exist before from that loan. Whereas with anabolic steroids, what you create is this like super physique, but it's not going to stay. It's impossible because the moment the moment you repay the loan, it's
yeah,
out. It's not
yeah.
there anymore. It's just so basically you're left with taking all the time anabolic steroids. Then okay, I understand. Then you're obviously going to be at a higher level all the time. But then you have all those side effects, and those aren't good. So
So just being clear and completely honest, you never used anything, right? In
I've
your
tried anabolic steroids. I would only be able to say that what they are if I use them. I
mm-hmm.
if you never touch the stuff and you start talking about it, it's ridiculous because you might know the theory, but until you've tried, you don't know how your body reacts. You don't know all those things, especially the side effects. But that was what 12 years ago. I tried. I just did a couple cycles. Yeah, you get results. It works. I mean, that's obvious. Everybody that competes doesn't, but I found it to be um, very temporary. It's not a permanent solution. It doesn't help you. It helps you make some kind of gains if you had a plateau or something like that. I can understand. But if somebody was looking to do bodybuilding as like a lifestyle, it's not. I don't think it's a great solution, especially if you can do it naturally. If you cannot do it naturally, if you tried it and nothing works, you look terrible, and no matter how hard you diet or how hard you work out, then I guess you're out of luck. That's the only choice you have. But I found, especially with being vegan, that I can achieve like a very high level naturally. So why on earth would I have to do that? Take hormones to get an even better look, which is possible, but it's honestly, I'm happy with where I am now, and I'm still improving slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's kind of good enough. If I stop seeing improvements, then I'd have to recalibrate and think again. But honestly, I weigh what empty stomach 93 kilos now, which is for me is big. It's not huge, obviously, but it's
How tall
for
are you?
I'm a meter 83, so 6 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
So
pretty
it's
small.
and I'm very lean. I'm lean all year, so it's a decent weight. It's primarily muscle, so yeah, I'm happy with it as long as I keep improving. And then also the word improving with age, it changes what it means to improve. But in general, for men, it's like size, basically. You're keeping on improving, adding a little bit of size, touching this area, changing that area, your weak points, making them stronger. And then always being lean for me was especially before turning vegan, that was really hard. It was a struggle. I had to diet, very rigorously with the amount of food I ate, amount of eggs, amount of fish, amount of meat, chicken mainly. And it was just and my skin was never as clear and smooth and perfect as I wanted it. And I think looking back, it had a lot to do with the quantity of meat and things I ate. I ate quality stuff. I didn't eat junk. It's just that I think maybe it's my body type, but in general, I think I cannot talk for speak for everybody, but I think being vegan, you have a lot less um, oils and just animal fats and those things in your system and inflammatory elements. And for me personally, that helped. My skin is just like it changed completely when I turned vegan. It cleared completely. Like I had super clean skin. I'm more youthful. It's tighter. It's just the skin, hair, and then also my sleep is better. It was good before. It's just that it's just right now I just fall asleep like this. I wake up like this, and there's no lag. Also, my energy levels throughout the day are very stable. So even if
Mm-hmm.
I eat large meals, I don't have that kind of, fall in
Yeah.
energy and then up and down in energy. So, and I managed to have that's like the level of energy is constant, but it's also at a high level. So I have energy throughout the day. I didn't feel like, oh, I stopped eating meat, eggs, and fish, so now I have, very little energy. I feel tired. No, that's not the case. I feel the same, if not better, because I don't have those troughs where after I ate like a large meal of chicken or fish or eggs, I used to, bog down for a little bit until I digested. But now
Mm-hmm.
I feel really constant.
Okay.
And then I stay really lean and I eat a lot of food. I can eat a lot of, I can always fill my stomach and I feel perfectly happy. And I don't put on weight. It's just I actually managed to lose weight, stay really lean all year. And that for me, without taking any drugs, that's like a dream for me.
That's so cool. Yes, I absolutely love that too in the plant-based diet. But I just wanted to come kind of like jump back and ask you, well, I imagine you've been training hard, eating meat, fish, dairy, doing all those things to grow and improve your physique and just feel great. So what pushed you to even look into the plant-based?
Well, I
Um,
had some friends that turned vegan like a few years prior. And I was just like, skeptical. Like they weren't bodybuilders. So I was like, yeah, you can do it. You're not a bodybuilder. You do sports, but you're not, you don't need that very high intake of protein to build muscle because that's not what they did. They just wanted to stay lean and, healthy. So I always was skeptical. I didn't think you could get the same amino acids in the right, amounts and all those things. I didn't even look into it, honestly. I just thought it was impossible. Um, and then I heard it from just too many people. It gets to a point where so many people close to you try it and like it, then you're like, okay, I'm gonna try. I wish I tried earlier. So when I
well,
tried, then it took me like just 2 weeks, and I kind of knew that, wow, this is special. And then the longer I tried it, it was just obvious. I didn't look back after that,
how
and
did
that
you
kind of
try it?
that
I'm
kind of
sorry.
drove me to really push harder. And the funny
Mm-hmm.
thing is that happened right before the pandemic. So
Mm,
I was vegan already when the pandemic started, and then the pandemic started, and we had that lockdown. And I built that gym, and I was training every day. So it was like, almost as if somebody wanted me to, you know, achieve something I hadn't been able to achieve before. Because, for many reasons, I was busy. I was living in China, which isn't great for working out all the time because you don't, you can't go run outside or swim or things like that. It's just basically the gym and that's it. And in Hawaii, you have, outdoors, you can go jogging, you can go swimming. It's much more outdoor kind of lifestyle. And having that opportunity, that lockdown period, I said, okay, I'm not going to waste this. Because especially I knew already because I had been vegan for a month or 2 months or 3 months, I guess. When it started, I said, okay, I have this diet that's working really well. I have this time off because I'm stuck here during the lockdown. I'm living in a great place for working out, which is Hawaii. So why don't I give this a shot? Let's see what I can do. And I put on a ton of muscle and just improved my physique. Uh, yeah, the way I never thought it would happen naturally. Yeah, I thought there's
mhm.
absolutely no way that I could have done that. And I did, and then I competed right before leaving Hawaii, and now living in Europe. I've been training ever since. I mean, yeah, nonstop.
Yeah. So how did you manage? You know what I mean? Like switching to the plant-based diet is not an
It
easy switch.
was it wasn't easy in terms of it's not a question of like I'm not being used to eating those things. That's not the problem. It was just like I had to look into where I was going to get my protein from and what types of vegetables, what types of beans, what types of different things I was going to eat. And there was I changed some things here and there, but I don't like to take too much time cooking every day because that's I'm busy, and then you have to factor in the working out and then everything else in your life. So I like to keep it simple. I'm not a crazy guy about food, like, everything I have to try things all the time. For me, food is like gasoline for a car. It's fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you achieve whatever physical goal you want, whether that's just to live or to achieve some kind of physical feat. You have to fuel yourself like a car. If you want to do the quarter mile in under 9 seconds, you have to use a special type of fuel for a special type of car. If you want to go Formula One, it's a different type of fuel. If you want to go a rally, it's a different type of fuel. So I think you fuel your body according to what you need. And I'm not too crazy about trying every kind of food, and I'm not a foodie basically. I've eaten at various types of restaurants and things like that, but for me, that's not something I want to dedicate my life to. I think there's things that are more interesting than just trying different foods that come in here and then out there. It's like that's great, and it releases all these endorphins and things like that and make you happy. But I think there's greater goals in life to achieve, things that are really hard and you have to dedicate yourself to, whether that's in work or that's your private life or working out. I think those are the goals that I'm more interested in dedicating time to instead of traveling to try food. But I have nothing against that. Some people love that, and some people are cooks and chefs, and that's awesome. But for me, that's not my thing. So I just designed a meal plan that kind of fit my what I thought I needed, and then I adjusted, and then I keep adjusting until I find that I'm in my zone in terms of calorie intake and what I need to gain, what I need to cut, and then kind of course, it has to be something you enjoy eating. You can't eat something on a regular basis for a year that you don't enjoy eating. So I pretty much, since I moved here, stuck to the same food pretty much almost every day. I have some small variations, things that I add in or take out, or I feel like changing it up, but that's it. I keep it very constant, and I find that easy to, because that way you know that if your body's changing, it's not the diet, it's something else, whether it's your aging or it's your working out that change or stress or something like that. Whereas if you constantly keep changing your diet, you're like your body changes and you're like, okay, is it the diet? Is it something I ate regularly that changed? Or is it, there's so many variables. There's already a million variables in the human body. If you're adding another variable, which is the diet, and it's constantly changing, then it's like you're really setting yourself up for failure. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I think long term, you look at all the people that live past 110 or 100, almost 120. A lot of them they come from very small towns. They ate. I'm not saying they ate well. Some of them ate badly. Like you look at the diet, like wow, how could? But they ate the same thing or almost the same thing for every year. They had a very not because they had some of them not even because they had the choice. They just came from that area and that's the type of diet they ate there, and that's what they did all the time. They weren't traveling around eating at restaurants. And I think the human body responds well to like whatever you eat. You just try to keep some kind of a rhythm going. I think when it's too fluctuate, if it changes too much, I think it creates stress for the body to a certain extent. It's not something you're going to notice short term. The problem is some things in the body, um, even like some trace minerals and things we take, uh, you try to, we always look on a short term to see if there's a change, but humans have a very hard time noticing long term changes. Like
Yeah.
some things they take short term, you're not going to see any change. It's basically like take it, remove it, eat it. It's not going to change it. But what you don't see is like after 6 months, a year, 2 years, you have to tie that to that result 2 years later, a year later, 6 months later. That's very hard for us to do. We're very good at tying things like I eat this today, tomorrow I look like this or I perform this way. That's easy for us to make the connection. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you take this today or regularly, and then only like 6 months later, a year later, you start to see kind of like your body responding to that or changing in significant ways. And it's very hard to make that association, tie that. For humans, it's very, very hard. So you just have to believe in it. At some point, you just have to try something and stick with it and just wait, 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 wait. That wasn't like the case for vegan. For me, I saw the results like a week, 2 weeks. I could see, wow, my skin and all those things. But like some minerals I take and some vitamins, I mean, if I were to stop tomorrow, I would
Mm-hmm.
have I wouldn't notice any change at all. I wouldn't
Yeah.
feel different. I take them because I believe that being an active person that sweats a lot, that trains a lot, that lives an active lifestyle, I need, those things long term to be healthy and to keep my body running the best way it can. Hopefully those will pay off in the long term. But to say that tomorrow I stop or I start a different vitamin and all of a sudden I'm going to change, that's those things. Unfortunately, seldom do you see those things. You do that sometimes, but it's rare. Most of the time, it's your actual physique or your performance changes with many different things that come together. And if you take one thing out, maybe you won't see the short term difference, but long term, it'll be exacerbated. It'll be like increase the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
So
I
some
agree with
things,
that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's absolutely such a great point to mention, that we quick to see the results. We were looking for quick results. We don't want to wait. And a lot of the time, especially in bodybuilding and health in general, we want to see the change. We want to have some solutions, but you're never going to, like get them immediately. Our bodies are smart and slow. We need to take time. So that's such a good, like
yeah.
point to mention. And you also
I mean,
mentioned
some things you do, you'll see results relatively
that,
quickly. Like if somebody drinks very little water, they have a habit of not drinking a lot of water, and all of a sudden you start hydrating really well. You're
yeah,
going to see a very quick, within a month, you're going to see a big difference in your sleep and your skin, in just your energy levels, and your even like for men, especially your volume of your muscles. If you don't hydrate well, that's going to have an impact. So some things have very fast impacts, but other things are just really small, like 0.5% change. And that's only going to be noticeable over the long term. So you have to kind of do it in like the belief that it's going to work in the long term, but you cannot just rely on short term results to justify, okay, I want to do this or take this vitamin or those things.
yeah. But I also think with me and a lot of my clients with veganism, that's a good thing to see. You actually feel or see results pretty quick, just like you said. So
Yeah.
you mentioned a couple of the things that you felt is changed, like your skin, your sleep, which is like part of your recovery. What other things you felt or like, like you can share that change in your life when you switched to the completely plant-based diet?
Well, I said that I can eat a lot of food, so I'm always, because I've always had an appetite. So I'm not a foodie in terms of like I don't chase different flavors and all those things. I don't chase that. But when I'm hungry, I want to eat and I want to feel full. I'm not like the kind of person that nibbles and, oh, I'm full. No, I eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
And which is important if you're a male bodybuilder, because you especially put on size, you have to eat a lot of food. And the bigger you are, the taller you are, the more food you have to eat. So if you don't have an appetite, it's going to be very hard to put on size if you're a bodybuilder. So that's important. But if you eat meat and fish and eggs and you eat those kind of quantities, it's going to be very hard for you to stay lean. At least for me to be lean, really lean, and to have like very clear skin and be kind of the way I wanted, basically the way I envisioned my body should look. I always struggled, and I was finding a balance between getting the protein you want without having the adverse side effects of eating that much meat and that much fish and eggs. Because I was eating what 6, 8 eggs in the morning, 300 grams of this at lunch, and then sometimes I ate many meals, sometimes I just ate 3 meals, but it was always like eggs, fish, and chicken, eggs, fish, chicken, eggs, fish, and chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it was 3 meals or 6 meals, it didn't matter. I was eating a huge amount of chicken and fish and eggs. So that I think over the long term, that just had a detrimental effect on my skin and those things. Yeah, I still managed to get lean and everything and build muscle. The majority of the muscle I built in my youth was from that. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
lie, I wasn't vegan. I was eating meat, so you can build muscle either way. But I think being vegan, you can stay very lean. You can eat a lot of food, especially if you're hungry. You can feel yourself and you feel light. You don't feel bogged down. You don't gain fat, in terms of body fat, because your calories, pound for pound, if you eat vegetables compared to like meats and those things, you're not going to get the same calories. There's going to be a lot less calories in the vegetables and beans, unless you're adding like, I don't know, huge amounts of vegetable oils or things like that. That's obviously bad. But if you keep like a good distribution between carbs, protein, and fats, and you eat like a pound of the vegan version of, or the pound of the meat and dairy and those things, you're going to have a lot less calories in the vegan version.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to feel just as full. So it's still a pound of food in your stomach, but you're going to get less calories. Uh, Even if you equate the protein intake, let's say 30 grams or 40 grams of protein here, 40 grams of protein there, if obviously the calories are going to come out from somewhere, so you're going to have less fats or something like that. Obviously the calories don't just appear out of nowhere. But
Okay.
I found that I could get the same protein intake and just stay leaner basically, and eat the amount of food I wanted without having to really weigh every single milligram of food.
Yeah, well, I had the same experience, even though I am completely like almost whole my life. I don't eat meat. So I stopped eating meat when I was 9 years old. I wasn't completely vegan, being 9 years old, you don't even know what does it mean. So I
Mm.
was still eating fish sometimes, and dairy just was my parents was, gave it to me. But I built my muscles, even though I'm not a huge male bodybuilder, completely on plant-based. But I, as the smaller type of person who having hard time gaining, was always thinking that I have hard time gaining until I actually become a nutritionist and I look inside of all the other options and I get the clients who are not completely plant-based. And then I saw, oh, well, I think I'm actually leaner because I'm plant-based, not because
Yeah,
I'm genetically gifted.
yeah,
Because if
yeah,
I would eat the same amount meals and just calories I eat from a standard American diet, I probably gonna look different, much more inflamed too, right? Because I
yeah,
think the plant-based diet is really less of inflammation, and then you don't hold as much of water, and
yeah.
I guess somehow you recover faster. I do use
I think
something.
over the long term you're going to recover, but it's not like obvious. Like for example, the recovery, muscle recovery.
Mhm.
Um, to say what I noticed, I felt less inflamed, less bloated. My skin, especially my skin, felt less thick. So like more like what the way skin is supposed to feel.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not as like pasty and things. But I think the recovery aspect, it's more of like you don't see it like today or tomorrow. It's more like being vegan for many months. You're recovering slightly better each time, but it's small enough that you don't really notice the difference. Like if I were to eat meat and recover from today's workout, it would take me more or less the same time. But that
Mhm.
little difference, if you add it up over many months or years, then your physique is going to be at a different level. But it takes months and years. It's not like you're going to turn vegan and you're going to recover like you're on performance enhancing drugs and all of a sudden you're going to work out
Yeah.
twice the amount. That's not the case. It's a small percentage difference. But things like aesthetic differences, like my skin and bloated, like you said, water retention, those are obvious. Those are things that I think you notice right away. But as for muscle recovery from working out, I think it's a small percentage and you don't really see it right away. It's hard to, maybe some people do notice it right away, but I barely notice it. But what I do notice is over 6 months, a year, 2 years, that I put on all this size. And, my workouts have pretty much stayed the same, if not the energy level's gone even up. So I'm
Mhm.
I'm recovering. It's impossible that I'm not recovering. But I think that if I were not to have been vegan these last 2 years, I wouldn't have made the same gains, and I certainly wouldn't be as lean as I am now. And then
Mhm.
it's hard to be. If I wanted to be this lean, then I would have had to diet even harder, which means that I probably wouldn't have recovered as well. I wouldn't be able to have trained as hard, and I wouldn't have grown this much. So basically, it's it's
Mhm.
various different things. You could be this lean technically, you'd have to diet really hard, but you probably wouldn't be you'd probably be a bit more puffy, skin wouldn't be as good, and I probably wouldn't have grown as much because the recovery, like you said, it's that small little difference in inflammation that it makes
Yeah.
a difference over the long run. It's not like today to tomorrow, you're not going to notice that.
Yeah, I think with my experience with clients helping them to switch to the plant-based diet, they feel that right away if they have any past injuries, like if they have like broken knee before or something, and when they completely switch to the plant-based diet, right away they see like, oh, my like injury are not as painful that they used to be after I did this and that and this. And
And that
also,
I don't have experience with
yeah,
injuries, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. And also like with the not only muscle recovery right away, I feel like a lot of like surfers, let's say, feel that. So more like endurance sport athletes, if they're like doing a lot of workouts, and then after that, like let's say for example, one of my surfers, he needs to take a nap after he surf for 2 hours every day. And then he do next kind of surfing session, you know, at night. And now when he's plant-based, he's like, I don't need a nap. And he felt it right away. So it's like those energy levels is increased, but of course it depends person of person,
Yeah.
right? It's always
Your
different.
age, your sex, if you're man, female, male, what age you are, how many years of experience of training, if you just started training, if it's, you know, body type, it's many different factors.
I want to ask you, you mentioned you're kind of like a top priority proteins on not plant-based diet. So can you tell us what do you eat right now? How do you switch
Okay.
from meat, fish, and dairy?
I have a variety of sources of protein. None of them are huge. Probably the biggest source of protein out of all of them is probably lentils, so beans, lentils, or let me think, probably lentils or soy, probably lentils.
Kind of
Every
like
night
what's your favorite?
I have lentils, red lentils, yeah.
Bread.
Quinoa, but I eat a lot more lentils than I do quinoa. So basically, every day I eat the same thing. It's oatmeal in the morning with uh, wait, I'm trying to think. In English, linhaça is flax, chia, oatmeal, soy. So dehydrated soy meal. I mix that with the oatmeal and the flax, and I cook it. I eat that. I have my coffee in the morning, and then I have some hemp protein, so hemp powder. I mix that with some greens, a green powder I have, just a normal green powder for some greens in the morning. Some multivitamin. That's basically my breakfast every day. Then at lunch, I only have 3 meals now. I don't have like a dozen meals throughout the day. I don't think I need it. And then at lunch, I have usually a pasta, but my pasta is made of vegetables. So I vary between lentil pasta, green peas pasta, and then I have one it's actually from wheat, but it's a type of wheat called kamut, Kamut. So it's an ancient grain. It's a special type of wheat that has gluten, but it's the gluten many people say is like it's very little impact compared to the gluten you get in normal wheat. And this wheat is also slightly higher in protein. So it's not a huge source of protein, but it's higher than the what wheat has. And then I usually mix a little bit of soy meal in, like kind of like a bolognese sauce with tomato. I prepare these before I cook the pasta, the green pea or lentil pasta. Sometimes I eat some mung bean pasta. I have these pastas at home. I have a shelf full of them. So every day I choose, okay, what I want to eat today. I cook that at lunch. Then I have my pre-made kind of soy with tomato mix. Sometimes I eat like Beyond Meat. You know, Beyond Meat, they have this mince. I don't have it very often, but like 2, 3 times a week. I mix that with the tomato sauce and then I have that for my pasta. So that's my lunch. And then at dinner, I have that lentil paste that I make. I make this large batches of lentil paste. It's like a puree basically of lentils, a little bit of potato, not much. It's like 85% lentils, 5-10% potato, carrots, onions, garlic, and then some seasoning. And I make huge batches of that and I keep it in the fridge. And at night, I heat that up. I cook some quinoa, usually about 100 grams, about 80, 100 grams of quinoa. And then I have vegetables. So I cut up vegetables, clean them, put them in the fridge, and then I steam them at night. So I have my steamed vegetables, my lentils, and my quinoa at night, and that's it.
Nice. And how do you
And
like
then
to
sometimes I add like a soy yogurt, like a
soy yogurt?
completely plant-based yogurt. I have that either at night or I mix it with the pasta, you know, whatever. Or a snack at night if I'm really hungry in the middle of the night, but that almost never happens.
And how do you like to use cook lentils? Like it's in a pot or in
No, I
pressure
cook it in the
cooker?
pot and then I use the bimbi, which is that kind of, you know, the machine that, you know, cooks and uh, mixes together. So I basically just mix it into like very fine,
So
so
you
you can't
do
see
blend
the
it? Blender?
Yeah, I blend it. Yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
blender. It's one of those big industrial blenders. It cooks at the same time.
Mm,
So I blend it together with all the other things I cook, and it's like a soup, a very thick soup. That's what
mm.
I put in my fridge. When it cools down, I leave it in the fridge, and I eat that throughout the week, basically.
So it's a lentil soup. How cool is that? Wow.
It's
Okay.
kind of a soup. It's a thick soup. It's not really
Yeah.
watery. I could make it
Mhm.
watery if I just added some more water, but it's a thick soup like a puree. And that's because it's just easier. It's just I don't want to be chewing all the time. I mean, I used to do this with chicken because for years I used to grill chicken and eat. Well, that's terrible. So you get to the point you've eaten so much chicken that you just want to. I used to mince it and then make like a like a bolognese sauce out of chicken almost. And at night, that's what I would have
Wow.
back when I was eating meat. Yeah, because you just don't want to be chewing. You have to eat so much food when you're a bodybuilder that to be chewing, and that's one thing I'm happy I gave up when I stopped eating meat, is that I didn't have to chew any more meat or eat any more eggs, because I ate so many eggs for those years that I was bodybuilding while I was eating meat or dairy products, that, man, if I never eat another egg, I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy. Yeah.
So and then no sweets, not even a protein bar. You don't crave
No,
anything like
I mean, I have protein bars at home, but I have them like if I'm going to the beach. I don't know how long I'm going to be there, and I am afraid I'm going to get hungry. I might bring a bar, but I don't take protein bars regularly. I mean, I don't think they're very healthy in terms of, they're made to stay in a shelf for a year or 2 years, so they're definitely not going to be, it's not as good as fresh food. If you have to, it's better than nothing. It's definitely better than buying something at the snack bar. That's for sure.
yeah, but
So I have
well,
them,
like
but I don't eat them. They're not a regular part of my diet.
yeah, so how do you manage that doesn't have any cravings? Like even like to I don't know, like everyone has different cravings, right? Some people like
The
fried
only
food,
thing I crave is pizza. So
pizza.
sometimes I eat pizza, but
Mm-hmm.
it's rare, especially recently that I've been dieting really hard. And it's a lot of it is habit. If you stop doing something for long enough, you just lose the habit. And I mean, I don't get the cravings much anymore. It's when you eat it, like I used to eat it like once a week, then you do have cravings more often. But now that I haven't eaten it for many, many weeks, I'm like, I don't really think about it. If I'm hungry, if I get like a little bit of hunger, I just grab I have like this wheatless bread things, thin breads, and I just put some soy yogurt on it, maybe some peanut butter or almond butter, and then I just eat that. But that's not hasn't been happening. I've been
Yeah.
really strict with my diet recently, and I've just been having less cravings.
Yeah, that's true that your taste bias is also like changed. Like with my dieting experience, is a lot of the time we think that we want something until we take a one piece. And if we didn't eat like let's say pizza for months, and then you think you want it, then you are take one piece and you're like, well, it doesn't really taste as good as I imagined,
No,
right?
no, no, no. If that's for me, that's not the case. If I
That's
were
not
to
the
eat
case
it,
for
if I
you?
would, no, no, no. If I were to eat it, it's good. But
Really? Oh my
it's not.
God.
I don't have it around the house.
Uh-huh.
I almost never eat out, so
That's
I
so
don't have
interesting.
any. Yeah,
For
I
me,
don't
that's
have any
the case a
reason. It's
lot of
not
the
in front
time.
of me. If it was in front of me,
Mhm.
then it would be much harder.
Yeah, well, just for me, a lot of the time that's the case. I sometimes feel like, especially after the show, when I diet so hard and so long, that post-show treat, and then you like eat it and you like, it wasn't as good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and especially like how you feel after, right? I'm sure if you eat
Oh,
like,
then you feel terrible, but it takes a while. It takes an hour or two for you to feel bad. The
yeah,
first hour, it's like, oh, it's amazing. It tastes great. It's like awesome. But after, you're like, why did I eat this? But
yeah,
now I don't have it. I'm very busy, so I'm always reading. I'm always looking at the news because in my line of work, that's important. I'm much more intellectually busy, so you don't think about food. If I'm always thinking about, economics and politics and geopolitics and things, my mind is busy, and then I have other passions. I love photography. So when I have free time, I'm not thinking about food. But as long as my stomach is full, I'm fine. The worst thing you can do is if you have no passions, nothing, and all you do is train, and then you stay home like this, look at the TV. That's going to be bad, because then you're going to, we're human. you know that there's, you can go to supermarket or restaurant, or these days it's your cell phone, you just order out. That's a recipe for disaster. Yeah. But if
Yeah.
you're always busy, then it's just harder to have cravings. And then the longer you do that for, the less cravings you have. So and
Mm.
I was never one like a foodie. I was never crazy about trying different things. For me, is if I'm happy, if I'm full, I'm good. And I enjoy the food I eat. I really like it. Do
Mm-hmm.
I wake up at night craving my lentil soup? No, it's not that good. It's good, but it's not that good. But
Yeah.
when I'm hungry and it's cooked and it's in front of me, I enjoy it. I actually enjoy eating it. It's not like,
Yeah.
oh, like when I had grilled chicken. Oh my God, that was disaster when I had to eat that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
cutting that chicken and chewing it. Oh, that was something I'm so happy I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah, I feel you. I used to be vegan almost all my life, but my first ever like bikini prep was plant-based and with a not plant-based coach. So she didn't know what to actually give me to eat. So she said, just eat tofu. And I was eating 6 months only tofu for my proteins.
Yeah,
And it was
that's gonna
terrible.
be, yeah.
Yeah. I
Tofu,
was
it's
like,
like,
oh my God, I hate tofu for this point.
yeah, you have to have variety. I mean, you can cook tofu so many different, or even if it's not tofu, like what I do is the dehydrated soy.
Yeah.
It comes in
Mhm.
like little. You can add that to so many things, and you don't really feel like you're eating tofu. But if you're literally gonna cook tofu and
Yeah,
eat tons of it, that can get
it's bad.
tiring very, very quickly. It's
Yeah.
good if you eat it like once in a while, but if you're eating it all the time, it's like.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah.
once I learned about a lot of these things, you have to learn if you try. You go to the supermarket, see what's available, and if you have a variety of sources of protein, like a little bit of soy, a little bit of flax, chia seeds, quinoa, if you have a little bit of protein everywhere, you add it all up, you can hit your macros. I hit
Yeah.
over 100 grams of protein a day. So for me, I find that's enough. Honestly,
Mhm.
I don't feel like I need more protein to grow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exaggerated to a lot. But you also mentioned that you didn't believe that you can hit all your essential amino acids being vegan. So since you switched, did you take any supplement approach? Do you take any specific
I do
supplement?
take supplements, but not more than I used to. I just BCAAs, glutamine, carnitine, citrulline, arginine, all those things. A lot of them are around my workout, so pre and post workout. But in the morning, I take a little bit of glutamine and arginine and those things, but small amounts. But I used to do that before anyway, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nothing new, right? You didn't change a lot.
no, it's basically the same amounts. And then I just added, instead of having meat and fish and eggs, I have the other things that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And then also the common question that I'm sure you was asked a lot. So when you decided to switch to the plant-based diet, how you deal with if you felt like a pressure from outside, from people, from maybe your gym buddies, like from your friends? Have you felt anything like,
Pressure. No,
yeah,
there's just a lot of them are like questions like, oh, you can do that? It's like, how long have you been vegan? Oh, and then they have experience. I mean, these days it's not that rare to know vegan people, people that are vegan. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was probably much harder. Then it would have
yeah.
been like, what are you doing? Are you crazy?
So
These days they're not going to
I
be
still meet
completely
people
shocked.
like this.
Yeah.
I still
But
meet.
then since I'm big, they're like they look at you like, really?
Mm-hmm.
You're vegan? How did you build? They're like, honestly, I don't have to explain myself to them. I don't try to convince people either, honestly. If they do what they think is right, I tell them my experience, and that's about all I can talk about. I can't speak, for them. I cannot say if you do vegan, you're gonna do. I'm not gonna start doing that. That's not me. It's your diet is very much a personal thing. I can talk about my experience and where I think, because I'm not a scientist, the benefits are. But yeah, at the end of the day, they have to try it. And I've heard some people that try it and that reacted really badly to it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they were doing it wrong. I don't know if maybe that's their body. I don't know. Honestly, it's too many variables that I'm not going to pass judgment on that. But I mean, it's hard for me to believe because it works so well for me. But you know,
Yeah, well, I think you're mentally strong, so you can deal with any type of pressure like that. But you're huge and you look great. So you're just an amazing example for anyone out there who want to try to the plant-based diet. I agree with you that even though I'm a plant-based nutritionist, I wouldn't say it's for everyone. Just like you said, we have a choice, and then everyone have a different requirements when it comes to a diet and preference in taste. But the benefits that you experience as much as I did is amazing. And I think everyone should at least try to add more plants in their diet. It's always going to be great, right? Even those huge bodybuilders are eating eggs, fish, and dairy. Could try to add lentils, let's say, right? And then
Yeah.
see how they feel like. You don't have to go completely plant-based, I always say. You just can add a little bit more of plants in your diet and see how it feel like.
Yeah, I
So
think one benefit people see if they switch over to being vegan, the ones that do, is besides all the other things that are kind of up for question, like inflammatory response, all those things. I mean, they pretty much proved it, but it's not like super obvious. It's not like saying if you jump in the water, you're going to get wet. That's
yeah.
obvious. If you jump in the water, you're going to get wet. But to say that turning vegan compared to a very healthy meat diet of white meat, healthy fish, and like egg whites, to say one is more inflammatory, probably yes, but it's a small amount. It also depends on the body, depends on the person, but it's a small amount. It's not like I was like super bloated. I wasn't recovering before. I was still gaining muscle. I put on a lot of muscle eating meat. But I think that the average person, they eat a lot less vegetables than they think they do. So the average person that eats a normal diet of meat, eggs, and whatever, they eat a lot less vegetables than they think they do. Sometimes, unless you're somebody that's measuring their food literally, you know exactly what you eat. But most people, even the healthy ones that eat, go to the gym, they don't really measure everything. And I think once you turn vegan, you're gonna get a lot of vegetables. It's almost impossible not to eat a good sized amount of vegetables a day. So that alone, I think, has a big positive effect, no matter what. Even if you forget the inflammatory stuff and all those
Mhm.
inflammation, and I think just the fact that they're going to finally eat a good quantity of vegetables, a variety of vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, green beans, whatever else have you. I think that has a benefit. And so you could do that also sticking with meat and fish and things and just eat more vegetables. But most people, they have their little vegetables. It's like it's this tiny little amount. Like at
Mhm.
night, I eat like a huge amount of vegetables. I think it has a very positive effect. I don't know exactly, can't put my finger on it, but I think humans, we've evolved over thousands of years. And I think back before we had guns and special weapons to, or even before we had animals that were in captivity that we, herded so we could kill them and eat their meat. For thousands of years, we were basically with a spear. You're not going to, it's like you look at the nature documentaries. The lioness or the lions, when they go hunting, they don't catch animals every single time. It's like
Yeah.
they can go a few days without catching a single animal. So we were the same thing. We could go a few days without actually catching if we caught it as a rabbit or something small. So we were stuck with getting our calories from vegetation, basically. Because what else? If you're not going to eat air, you have your
Mhm.
water, you have animals, and then you have vegetation. That's the only other option. So we were stuck getting our calories, a lot of them from vegetation, whatever we could find around us or grow
Mhm.
for thousands of years. We're not talking like 100 years since World War II to now, or since vegan blew up in 20 years ago or whatever. That's like super short term. Human history is like thousands of years. So we have to think what our bodies evolved from it. We were primarily eating vegetation. So I
Mhm.
think we have to, even the one people that eat meat and eggs and all those things, that's great. That's fine. But I think you owe it to yourself to eat a certain amount of vegetation every day because that's the way our body, human beings, basically evolved. And if you take that away, you're going to be okay. Like keto diet, you eat just meat. I think long term it has negative effects. I don't know why, but I think you know we're our machine, the machine that is our body. It evolved. It was created in a very specific, not specific, of a certain set of circumstances. Let's say
Yeah.
where we were hunting, where fruit wasn't everywhere, especially in some regions of the world, you had no fruits. If
Yeah.
you were like the Genghis Khan, in Mongolia and that area, those people, nomadic peoples, you didn't have fruit trees. There was no papaya, there was no those things. You had some kind of vegetables you could grow, but mainly they were, for hundreds and thousands of years. There's a few animals they herded, and then whatever they could grow, whatever kind of. So you were getting very low sugars, low protein, and lots of legumes or kind of carbohydrates, basically, to survive. Lots. I mean, they were very lean people because they weren't getting much food. Like
Yeah.
in nature, how many fat animals do you see in nature? You don't see fat animals. I've
No.
never seen a fat lion. I've never, okay, an elephant is different, but like a giraffe, you don't see
But
very
if you
many fat animals. The only fat animals I
yeah.
see are dogs on Instagram and cats because people
Yeah.
feed them like human food. But in nature, you almost, I can't remember ever seeing a fat gorilla or things.
Yeah, but if
So
you
it's
think
like,
about elephant or gorilla, they're plant-based, which is crazy, right? The amount
yeah,
of
gorilla is,
muscle.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I cannot wrap my head around because the guy gets no protein.
yeah.
It's like, where does his protein come from? How does he build what, how much do they weigh? 400 or 500 pounds or more of
Mm-hmm.
muscle? The guy's like, it's all muscle, it's all upper body muscle, and he's huge. And all he eats is whatever grass he has like around him or leaves or things. You're like,
Yeah.
even vegan, I'm like, if I were to just eat that kind of stuff, I I wouldn't think I would grow, but maybe I would. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, I
Where
think
does he
you
get his
may.
protein from?
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
you may be, but we didn't know. It's not enough of research, unfortunately, in
I think
plant-based
so. I think
diets.
they nobody does that kind of research.
Yeah, yeah. We all kind of refocus on proteins a lot, and I think it's also like a problem of nowadays, sales industry, right? We are refocused to we need protein, we need supplements, eat this, take that. So we don't really know, like maybe because gorilla it doesn't look like he's gonna die
Yeah,
tomorrow.
it's hard to believe that if you were to say categorically that you need uh protein to build muscle. Like if you had zero protein intake, you would build no muscle. Then look at nature. You're like, how do these huge animals, like a rhino? Rhino doesn't eat meat.
Yeah.
Not that I know of, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Rhinos, they forage on grass and things like. To my knowledge, that grass does not have a very good amino acid profile. I mean, if you have
Yeah.
any at all, it's like very low. So where in the world, how does that muscle you know exist? It's
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Somebody
Well,
should research that, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, by doing the talks like this, by showing up right there on social media, that's why we do that, right? We wanted to get those questions out. So finally, we're gonna have maybe more proven research, but right now we can just prove what we experience, right? And
Yeah.
from experience was my personal diet, and with a lot of people I help, either you have 100% of protein in your day or you have 50%. It's not really significantly changed the amount of muscles you build on a plant-based diet. I think what's changed is if you don't actually resistant train. So I wanted to emphasize the resistant training. On the top of everything, you need to train to grow muscles. Your diet is important, but not as much as important is
As your training, yeah, your training has to be really, really good
yeah,
for to grow
yeah. I
muscle.
didn't see anyone losing muscles while they were training. So that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
So thank you
exactly.
so much. I feel like I can talk to you a long time, but we have some time requirements, so we have to wrap it up. Before I
Thank
let
you.
you go, I have one question that I ask everyone right here. So I would ask you this. If it's going to be the last day of your life on this earth, what you going to do?
What would I do? Well, I'd probably eat a pizza because I love eating pizza.
I love it.
Um, I would I would love to go sailing because I love sailing. Um, just go for a quick jog because when you run, I just love running. You feel free. You feel like you're almost flying. Humans can't fly, unfortunately, but the closest we can get to it is like when you run on a beach, especially if your legs feel fresh. Fresh. If you start running for long distance, your legs feel tired. You don't feel very athletic. But the first few hundred meters, your legs are fresh. You just feel like you're gliding almost, and that's a great feeling. I'd go for a swim. That's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you
it's
would connect to the nature and do something
yeah.
physical.
Everything I do other than eating the pizza is basically connecting with nature. So that's yeah.
So cool. Okay, thank you so much for your
Thank
time today.
you,
I
Aurora.
think our followers gonna like, enjoy this talk. It's a lot of helpful information. Before I let you go, if anyone wanna follow your journey, see your big gains, and just know a little more about you, how they
Yeah,
can find you.
I'm on Instagram. I mean, I only share my fitness things, but that's already a lot, and you can see a little. I sometimes talk about diet, but not that much anymore. I should talk more about it, but I do share my meals sometimes. I post on my stories, and then if they want to check out the wooden gym I built, they have to go scroll down through my Instagram. It's in there. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you planning to do with that? Are you gonna be back in Hawaii soon?
When I travel there, yeah, I'll use it. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was primarily built. I wouldn't have built it if the pandemic didn't happen. I'm happy it did, but if I were to go back to Hawaii, I think I would split my time between Iron Hawaiian Fitness and the home gym. I wouldn't train
Yeah.
every day at gym because you have more machines at a proper gym. But I think some
Agree.
days I don't want to drive all the way to the gym, so I just train at home. That'll be cool, and you can train outdoors, so you get sun.
Yes, that's so cool. Okay. Thank you so much
Okay,
for your time
thank
today.
you.
Have an amazing rest of your night because you're
Yeah,
already
yeah, it's
almost
nighttime
done.
here, 10 p.m.
Yeah. And I
Okay,
hope
thank
I'm
you.
gonna see you soon in Hawaii.
You too. Thank you.
Bye,
Talk to you
guys.
soon.